Airtech Mod Soldier here, and I'm back to talk about Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, Season 1, Episodes 1 and 2, and my thoughts on these episodes. Wow. I mean, wow. That was pretty fucking bad. Wow. Wow. I can't stop saying it. It was bad. And the worst part of this show is it's boring. Like, unbelievably boring for a Lord of the Rings show. Wow. I mean, it felt like an hour. It really did when you're watching this show. Nothing really happened. And that is this show's biggest problem, is it seems to just stay on boring scenes. And the action scenes, when there is some, they just don't feel good. They drag on. They look ridiculous. But wow. Now, I know some people have a problem with this show because of the diversity. Listen, this is where I come from that part of the whole, with this whole crap. I don't care. If a story's good enough, I don't care what the fuck the cast look like, okay? I don't. And anyway, if someone has a problem with the diversity, they have a right to have that fucking opinion, because they are right. Tolkien didn't fucking make this Lord of the Rings diverse. He didn't, okay? This is a guy who wrote his books in the 19th century in England to help save English literature, to help save English British fairy tales. Please, for God's sake, tell me you understand that Britain wasn't diverse in the 19th century, okay? So, any moron trying to say this was always Tolkien's plan, you are a lying piece of shit. Obviously, Tolkien meant the cast were probably going to be 100% white if he was in charge of it. I'm sorry you can't accept that, but listen, I don't care. But I'm just saying to people that go, oh, you're being racist. No, it's a fact, okay? This is a fact. Tolkien wasn't fucking making this a diverse world. He just wanted to make it diverse in the species. In like dwarves, humans, elves, all that kind of stuff. Not colour. But anyway, do I have a problem with it? No, I don't care. If the story's good enough, if the acting's good enough, then nobody's going to care about this. Unfortunately, this show has hired a bunch of morons. Because the acting is terrible. I mean, two of the actors and actresses who I think are Latin American, I can fucking tell your accents, because Jesus, you cannot pull off an English accent or a British accent. I don't know what the hell that was between the elf and the human woman, but God, you two really need to go back to I don't know, speech lessons, how to speak British, because you can't do it. It's blatantly obvious. Oh God. Anyway, so much of this, it is just a disaster. This show, again, it doesn't look great. It doesn't sound great. I mean, some people keep trying to fucking bring up like, oh, it looks fantastic. How does it? When you watch Lord of the Rings, you see fucking amazing imagery. I mean, it looks fucking fantastic. It's all real. This show, it does. It all looks CGI. And I think somebody on the internet said this is all real. Some of it's real. And like, I can't tell because the CGI is so fucking bad. And I'm sorry, everything in this show is just bad. There's nothing good. And it is like, Amazon saying they spent millions on this show. Where did you spend that money? Because the armour on the knights and the elves looks like shit. The clothing on a lot of people looks like shit. The CGI looks like shit. And the actors and actresses you've hired are fucking terrible. Like, where did the money go? Because I can't see a fucking bit of it. Oh, but did I mention how boring this was? And, by the way, we all know who the fuck Sauron is. I mean, it's pretty fucking obvious, right? If you have watched this show and you don't know who Sauron is at this point, how? How do you not know? It is so fucking obvious. I mean, wow. How did this get made? How did this get made? I mean, if the Tolkien family hated the films, how the fuck are they gonna like this piece of shit? The films are fucking amazing. Oh, God. How is this Lord of the Rings? How? How has this happened? How? It's just awful. And they keep saying Galadriel's name in the most annoying way. Galadriel, Galadriel. That's all you fucking hear. That is the most said fucking word in this show. Her fucking name. And it's all for them to have that stupid fucking accent when they're saying it. Just say Galadriel. Yeah, you don't have to keep... Oh my God, this show is terrible. It is fucking terrible. Oh my God. And the harfoot, I fucking can't stand them. And I know they can't call them hobbits because a certain company is going to pretty much sue the shit out of Amazon if they do. But listen, they are fucking hobbits and they're just annoying as fuck to watch. Especially the leader or the idiot girl we have to follow around who is just unbelievably annoying to watch. Okay? I can't stand her. Oh, and Lenny Henry. Oh, he is just annoying. You know, on this show and what he says on fucking TV and fucking newspapers thinking you're going to change Tolkien's work. Fuck you, Lenny Henry. His work's still going to be around when you're... Oh, I don't get it. I really don't. How can you spend this much money and this is the end result? There's nothing in this show worth this much... Oh, anyway. Listen, it's a 0. Okay, it's a 0 out of 10 for me. I can't stand this show. It's long, it's boring, and it's just... Acting is so fucking bad. Oh, God, it's everything. Everything's terrible. Everything. Let's go into spoilers now, because, God damn, I can't keep talking about the show. Let's go into spoilers now. If you don't want to hear spoilers, leave in 3, 2, 1. So, the show starts off with some kids playing in a field, and then we see Galadriel building something, and it turns out she's building a little mini boat swan, and she sails it down a river. Then some kids run up and say, "What are you doing, Galadriel?" And then they start throwing rocks at the boat. One of the boys hits the boat and sinks it, and Galadriel just runs at him. And apparently, little girls are as strong as little boys. Bullshit! I've been a kid. That's just bollocks right there. Whilst they're fighting, her brother comes up and they stop fighting, and then he takes her away and says, "That was a great boat you built." And you know, they have some discussion, and then he mentions, like, why is a rock heavier than a boat? And then he says something about darkness, and I mean, it's pretty obvious why a rock's heavier than a boat. Oh no, it's about why can a boat float but a rock sinks? And then he says some weird bullshit, but basic facts is a rock's heavier than a boat, or at least a paper boat. That's why the boat is floating and the rock is sinking. I know they're trying to say this is fantastic fucking writing by having him say it in the most ridiculous way, but that's the fact of it. A rock's just heavier. Oh God. Anyway, so Galadriel is kind of speaking over the scene and explaining that elves didn't have a word for death. And then apparently the tree, again, I'm not a die-hard Tolkien fan. I've read a couple of the books. I know I got to do better. But I've watched the movies; they're amazing. But yeah, so there's this big tree. I'm gonna sound like a cunt here. I know I am. There's this big tree that's important because it keeps the elves alive or keeps them that live forever. But it then goes out because of Morgoth. Because Morgoth's the big guy. Sorry, I sound like an idiot. So they decide to immigrate all the elves to the Middle Earth, and they then have a war with Morgoth and all the orcs. And in this war, yeah, the elves lose a lot of people, and then we get this weird scene where Galadriel starts stacking up helmets, which just looks really fucking weird. Anyway, rushing through this, Galadriel explains that they're looking for Sauron because he's the big bad guy now because Morgoth's gone. So they're looking for Sauron. Her brother went after Sauron, but he got killed by Sauron. So she takes up the mission to go after Sauron, and so she looks for Sauron for about 100 years with her elf party. And I mean, this scene, again, it's so boring to watch, and it's so boring to remember all this. So we all remember that scene from the trailer where they're climbing the ice wall, because that's blatantly not copying Game of Thrones. They're climbing the ice wall, they're doing all this crazy shit to find Sauron, and all the fucking elves that are with Galadriel just keep wanting to give up. Like, at every fucking point, they just want to keep giving up and giving up. Listen, Sauron is pure fucking evil. Why are you trying to give up finding him? They keep trying to say, oh, he's probably dead, he's probably dead. How about we make sure he's dead? How can these people be so incompetent and just say, listen, he's probably dead, but let's not make sure about it, let's just go home. Again, you're looking for Sauron. It's kind of important. But the writing in this show is shit. So they can't give them a better reason than they're tired. That's blatantly it. They're just tired. Again, you're looking for the most evil person in Middle Earth. I think a bit of discomfort is worth it to find the greatest evil in Middle Earth. Anyway, so Galadriel leads the party. They find some magic place. They get in there. Galadriel finds Sauron's mark because that's the same mark that was left on her brother. And then they get attacked by a troll or something. And then we get this really weird fight scene between it where Galadriel jumps on somebody's sword to kill the beast. It just looked like a very dumb scene. So she jumps on the sword, kills the beast, and then and then her party decide that's it, they're done, and they all put their swords on the floor to signal that they're now abandoning the search for Sauron, even though they found evidence that Sauron's there. I mean, they found the mark. It might have been 1,000 years, but Sauron lives for a very long time. But this elf just wants to give up, and all these other elves just want to give up. It's just so... And again, why are you dropping your swords? You've just been attacked by a beast. There could be more creatures out there. You might want to keep your swords. It's just... They just have to have this scene where Galadriel is just fighting everybody to find Sauron. It's so ridiculous. Like, again, it's fucking Sauron. Of course these people would probably want to find him. Like, why did... Oh, never mind. Anyway, so that scene's done. Next scene, I think it's Elrond's scene where he's hiding from people to, not be bothered by them. Apparently he's not allowed into some kind of meeting because it's only for High Lord elves. He doesn't really give a damn about that. But then they mention that Galadriel's back, and so he just runs off to see Galadriel. They talk to each other. Galadriel asks to go back out and find Sauron. Like, she wants to find him. She's desperate to find him to avenge her brother. Blah, 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 blah. Because she's taken over the search for him. And Elrond's like, listen, you've done enough. You don't have to do it anymore. Sauron was probably dead, and then we get the really cringe scene of, you have not seen what I have seen, I've seen enough, you have not seen. Terrible writing again there. I mean, come on. You couldn't do better than, you have not seen what I've seen. Anyway. But Elrond mentions the High King of the Elves. And listen, it's the High fucking King. The High fucking King is fucking Sauron. If you don't know that, you're an idiot. He is Sauron. It is so fucking obvious. It is fucking annoying. They've made it that easy to fucking figure out. Where's Sauron? Oh, he's a fucking king. Okay. Like, how is it that fucking easy to find him? Like, he's right there, Galadriel. Just get him. Oh my god. I didn't look online, by the way. I could have it completely wrong, but come on. Come on. It's obviously him. So, Galadriel is getting an offer of eternal life with the rest of her party, or at least attack group, or whatever. They're all given crowns by the king, who's obviously Sauron, and all being told, listen, you can live forever, and you've done your duty, and blah, 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 blah. And then Galadriel just accepts it, and takes the crown, and heads off into the ship. I'm just going to get the Galadriel story out of the way, because, again, the episode's fucking boring. So Galadriel gets on a boat. They head off to go for eternal life. That, by the way, when they get to eternal life, it starts sounding a little evil when they get near the eternal life thing. And I'm just like, okay, so it's obvious that that's not eternal life. That's probably some suffering place that Sauron's left a trap for all these elves to turn them into something evil. Just saying, it's probably what it is. But Galadriel jumps off the boat because she doesn't want to go because she wants to find Sauron. She jumps off the boat into the sea and just starts swimming for miles. Now, I know elves live forever. I know, not forever, but I know elves live a long time. But come on, how the hell is she going to swim that far? And yeah, that's the end of her scene. All she ends up doing for the first episode is swimming, or at least for the end of it. We go back to the Harfoots. Well, not with back with them, sorry. So we meet the Harfoots. The Harfoots are they're a hiding species. These poachers or hunters come across them. They hide from them, and then when they see it's all clear, Lenny Henry's character, I don't fucking know his name in this show. So Lenny Henry's character is the head of the group, and he's worried because poachers don't normally come at this time of year and something could be up, and everybody starts worrying, but he tells them all to calm down, blah 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 blah. And we meet Nori. And Nori's taken a bunch of kids out to go look for some berries and shit, and yeah, there's nothing really happens. She takes the kids out to eat berries. They get back to camp. Her parents are pissed off with her, and she says, well, I'm just, I don't want to just be stuck in, doing nothing. I want to go out there and look for stuff. But her mum says, no, it's too dangerous, and blah, 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 blah. And that scene ends. I can't be asked. I just can't. Again, she is so annoying to watch. Really is. And then we go to another scene where we meet Arondir. I think that's his name. Arondir, the, black elf. I shouldn't say that, but I'll just say. So Arondir, he is patrolling with one of the other elves in this part of the world. And apparently he's fallen for a human woman. And, the elf with him tells him, you shouldn't do that because every time an elf falls in love with a human, it always ends in death. And he doesn't really care because he loves her. Then they get the message from, the elves and the king that the war is over and that all war parties, all, settlements that they've created need to return back to the king, back to the elves. And so they're all happy they're going home, but Arondir is not, because he's fallen in love with a woman and he wants to stay with her and all that stuff. But when he goes to see her, a farmer comes with his cow. His cow is sick. The elf asks, well, Arondir asks, where was this cow? Where was this cow when she got infected? The farmer tells him, and so him and the woman go off to a village to find out what happened. I'm going to rush through this now because I'm already bored. They get to the camp. Well, they get to this village. Turns out it's been attacked by somebody. When they get there, it turns out somebody's been digging underneath the village and stealing people. We don't know why. And then Arondir decides to go down the tunnel on his own and figure out what's happened. And the woman, I didn't get her name, goes back to her settlement where she tries to warn the people what's happened, but the people don't really trust her because they all know that she's has a thing for the elf and they kind of see that as disgusting. Even her son does. Oh, and her son apparently has found Sauron's sword. Don't know how, but apparently he found the sword and now he's keeping it, and now he starts cutting himself, and when he cuts himself and blood mixes in with Sauron's sword, it starts building back up again because he's found the end part of it and it was destroyed. It was damaged, so he needs to keep feeding it blood for it to fully repair. And that's the end of that. And anyway, so she warns the town, but the town doesn't want to tell the elves what's happened, because if they tell the elves what's happened, the elves might stay and they want to be rid of them. Again, I don't remember the elves and the humans being like hated. Like, I don't remember the humans hating the elves. Kind of remember the fact they were like allies, like seriously like brothers with each other. So why is this hatred towards them? I don't understand. Because they keep saying pointy ears. It's like, are you fucking 5? Seriously, are you fucking 5? Anyway, so the woman goes back to her house. And it turns out the house has been attacked by some creature. She has a fight with that creature. Then she kills the creature. Goes back to the pub or whatever the place is called. And then puts the head down and tells the village she's going to the elves to warn them. And if you don't want to die, you should come with her to the elven settlement, and they'll protect us. And that's the end of that. And Arondir was there. I don't know what he did. I really don't remember. So, at the end of the first episode, we see a comet hit the ground, and Nori goes over to investigate what's happened, and then she just finds an old man who is unconscious. And everybody fucking knows who this is. We all know who this fucking guy is. Okay? They keep trying to do this shit where they're trying to say, who could this be? Who could this be? Seriously? It's Gandalf. It's fucking Gandalf. We all know it's fucking Gandalf. I don't know if they can use the name because of the rights issue, but it's Gandalf. It's fucking obvious. It's Gandalf. And again, isn't this this is going to be such a bad pronunciation. Isn't this the Styrilyrium? I have got that wrong, but aren't wizards not a part of the world yet? So how is Gandalf coming in like a shit, like really way too early for the Styrilyrium? Wow, I cannot say that fucking word. Anyway, so the wizards have come way too early, but this show needs to have, all the best parts of Lord of the Rings, doesn't it? Wizards, fucking hobbits, humans. I mean, come on. It's obviously fucking Gandalf. Anyway, so I'm just going to do their whole arc just quick, because I can't be asked. Because again, this show is so boring to watch. It's 2 hours, man. 2 hours of being absolutely fucking bored. God. So, Nori gets a friend to help her carry Gandalf somewhere safe. She finds him something to cover himself up with. She then goes to get him some food. She comes back with food, tries to show Gandalf how to eat food. Then he sees her eat, and then he starts eating himself. Turns out he's also been writing stuff on trees and on the floor, but he can't talk the same language as her, so she doesn't know what he's talking about. He then starts doing obvious signs that he's Gandalf when he starts screaming at her and everything starts going dark. You know the scene where Frodo tries to give Gandalf the ring and you see the dark moment? Yeah, an obvious fucking tell this is fucking Gandalf. Anyway, so Nori is away from home where she's not helping her people fix up the place that they live in, and then her father gets hurt, and because they're a species that immigrates and moves, if you have a broken leg, that's a death sentence, because if they can't carry you, if you can't move yourself, then you're just a hindrance to these people. So Nori starts to blame herself for not being home because of her dad's injury, but she still wants to help the wizards at the end of the day. And we end with Gandalf killing a few fireflies. He starts talking to them, but then they all die. And that's the end of that. I mean, okay. The next thing that happens in this episode, or these episodes, the king talks to Elrond and tells Elrond that he needs to help Celebrimbor. Celebrimbor is the guy who designs a lot of famous weapons and stuff. And if you don't know who this guy is, he's the guy who's pretty much going to create the One Ring and all that stuff, I think. So Celebrimbor takes him back to his workshop, where he tells him that he wants to create something so powerful, but he needs that's going to save his people and stop the elves having to, continuously be at war with the orcs and everything else. But to make that sort of power, he needs a special kind of workplace. And he asked the king for more elves to help him build this place, but unfortunately the king has said no to that. But the king sends Elrond to help him, and Elrond comes up with the idea about why don't they go to the Dwarves for help. And Celebrimbor accepts the idea. They go to the Dwarves, and this is where we find out Elrond is very close to Doran. And him and Doran are very close friends. He's expecting a massive welcome, blah, 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 blah. When he gets to the door, they play a little joke. They don't open the door to him because Elrond has pissed off Daemon, and so he demands a challenge he gives a challenge to Daemon. Not Daemon, that's a different person. Doran. He gives a challenge to Doran. Doran accepts it, and the challenge is pretty much breaking apart rocks until one person can't break these impossible rocks anymore. So they do the challenge. Doran wins, and Elrond goes up the elevator with him because he's just been thrown out of the kingdom. That was the punishment for losing the challenge. So Doran is pissed off with Elrond because he hasn't come back in over 20 years. And yes, 20 years for an elf is like nothing, but to a dwarf, he's had an entire life in that lifespan. And Elrond apologizes, and so Doran decides, fine, you can stay and meet my kids and his wife. So Elrond accepts. They have dinner. He has dinner with his wife, who is the first the first elf of colour. I heard that, and yeah, her character, there's nothing really wrong with it yet. Nothing really happened. I mean, she seemed like a fun character, even though the actress playing her is such a stupid cow. But nothing wrong with the character. It was fine. She was a loving wife. There you go. Doran is happy that he's married her. She tells the story of how they met, and so Doran is happy that Elrond has met his wife, and Elrond asks, can I now ask you for a favour, basically? And and Doran says fine, he'll ask his father about building this important thing for Celebrimbor. So he's going to go to his father and ask. So he goes to his father and asks, but his father doesn't trust the elves, and then we get this mysterious box that's pretty much Mithril. Okay, that's what's in the box, Mithril. It's obvious from the blue, please, it's obviously Mithril. So apparently the dwarves are hiding something from the elves, Mithril, and they don't want to find out because apparently there's some sort of danger lurking, and they think the elves have something to do with it. And that's the end of that. What else is there? Because have I missed anything? No, let's come to the final scene let's come to the final thing, which is Galadriel swimming for a shit long time in episode 2. So yeah, she swims for a shitload long time. She then comes across a bunch of stranded people who have made a raft for themselves. Apparently, these people on the raft have been attacked by some sort of worm thing. They destroyed their ship. They don't trust Galadriel when they find out she's an elf. Then the worm attacks them, but Galadriel manages to jump off the ship before she's killed by it. But one of the people on the raft manages to cut themselves free. Galadriel then jumps on what's left of the barge, what's left of the raft, and they have a little discussion with each other about, why man doesn't like elves and why elves kind of pissed off at man. Kind of a boring scene. And then at the end of the episode, they get picked up by a ship. And that's the end of what happened with Galadriel in episode 2. And that's the end of my review. I know I might have missed stuff, but god damn it, I can't. This show, it's just so boring, and I can't believe this cost millions to make. Where's the money? Where is the money going? This episode was so fucking boring. That's my biggest problem. Nothing really woke happened. I mean, other than the diversity, but I don't think that's woke. I just think, who gives a shit? But yeah, nothing really happened. There was nothing interesting in these episodes. And when you can pretty much figure out where the bad guy is, where Sauron is, in the first fucking episode, I mean, it's pretty fucking... This show's pretty much not going to last long. It's a terrible episode. It's a 0 out of 10 for me. God, I mean, this could be the biggest fuck up in TV history, and that's still with Game of Thrones, because that's the biggest fuck up in TV history. This might be the thing to take it over, because this is so badly written. This is so badly acted. I'm just shocked it got past the writing room. I'm just shocked nobody saw this and just said to themselves, we shouldn't do this. I think the Tolkien family did. That's why they tried to hold this back for so long. But unfortunately, the one person who tried to stop it from ever happening, he died, unfortunately. And yeah. So, this is a waste of money. A waste of time. And I don't know how this gets a second season, but apparently this is going to get 5 seasons. But how? If it's this bad? But that's the end of my review. If you like this review, give it a like. If you dislike this review, give it a dislike. And if you like my content, do think about subscribing. And take more soldier. Bye.